stranded in space on a ship crashing into the atmosphere of an unknown planet, Emile Spencer knew that the only way to survive would be by his own wits and guile. He vowed that somehow he would find and slay the titanic cosmic beast that put him in this predicament, VY572. With every installment, we follow Emile's explorations and discoveries on this journey of revenge against all odds. I'm Midnight Jester, and this is the Left Behind Starforge series.
On the last episode of Left Behind, Emile found himself lost out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, space is a lot of nothing, but Emile was truly, as far as he was concerned, in the middle of just the nowhere of space. He had passed out on a ship that had gone into subspace, and he didn't know for how long. He was able to pull it out in time and not just be lost in that kind of subspace forever when he had the ship's battery just utterly drained. But when he emerged, he really didn't have his bearings. He knew that he was theoretically aligned with Cinder to begin with, but he didn't know how far he might have overshot it, all kinds of things like that. But he was on his own, at the time still sticking halfway out of the ship, and he made it his duty to try and find his way back to be able to warn the people of Concord that, the Imperium is basically there. They do not have a lot of time, so he tried to get back as quickly as he could. In trying to find his bearings, he did wind up on a site that was an electrical storm that had a derelict ship just stuck inside of it. He was able to lightly blast it out of the electrical storm, find it on the other side, and use the ship and some of that debris to reactivate his phase shifter, allowing him to get back inside of his ship, and then went on, explored that. Cutting to the end of it, he now has a new starship. It's called Raya's Promise. He's taken it over, and the single fighter that he was flying it up until that point is now inside its small hangar. And he took that ship and he continued on with it. Now, we learned that the Imperium, as a result of Emile's actions of having made, all of the ships from Hyperion jump away, they were looking to buy all those ships. They wanted them for the air support for this invasion they were going to be doing on Cinder. With all those ships gone, they have to pivot. The orders from on high or whoever's in charge has decided they need to wait until they have this air support. And so they got a message out to a carrier ship that has... it has a whole bunch of single fighter ships inside of it, and it's just carrying them back towards Cinder in order to rendezvous. They're coming from a little farther away, and so the Imperium has to wait on this. Now, Emile accidentally ran into that ship. Somewhat literally, actually. He just barely kind of crashed into it and was able to hide out by getting inside their sensor range. And where we left off, he is now riding kind of the underbelly of it inside their blind spot, contemplating the fact that inside that ship is all the air support he's been looking for and been unable to get to. He's weighing the pros and cons of this kind of action inside his cockpit, because he knows at the moment they don't know he's there. And if they ever did, they would vastly outnumber him, so this would be a bad thing. How much does he want to push it? That's where we left off last time. I'd like to set a little bit of a vignette before we go for really, completely transparently, I don't have a vignette in mind this time. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Our momentum is only 2 right now. I really want every last bit of momentum we can get before we do something as dangerous as this sort of thing. So I know there is a table for the begin a session move that allows you to roll just kind of a random idea for a type of vignette to do. We're going to do that this time. I know we've done that in the past, but once. So this time I get flashback reveals an aspect of your background or nature. So when I read that, that makes me think to, the times when Emile served on the Reacher. That's the most major thing we know about him. Well, there's that, and then there's the time at Laztec. We know that he used to work for Laztec and has run afoul of them as a result of him not agreeing with some of the risks they were taking in pursuit of their technology. Maybe this would be a good opportunity to tie back to that, because Laztec operates inside the God, why am I blanking on the sector of the area of space where you're most central to it all? Whatever. The area where the Imperium mostly is, that most central, most populated, the terminus. Laztech operates in the Terminus, and the Imperium certainly does as well. Maybe there's a way to tie this all together. I don't immediately know how I want to do that, but that's where my mind is going. I might need to do a couple more oracles here. Because I want a moment when Emile was back at Laztech that maybe this has to do with, like, during that time where Emile was... Maybe this was a time where Emile was, like, contemplating, like, blowing the whistle on them to the Imperium. Like, trying to figure out whether or not what they were doing was truly illegal. And perhaps colors his experience with the Imperium and gives him a little bit more of a negative view of them. Because he's making some bold efforts, like putting a lot on the line to oppose, like, governmental order. He's not a vault hunter, but he sure is really tasking himself to serve their side of this. So, like, why don't we see a little bit of the reason for that? So I think this is a moment where Emile, he's leaving Laztech for the day, and we see him looking around, like, really shifty, like he's afraid of being watched this whole time, because he's getting more and more uncomfortable with the way they're doing it and their culture. When he's inside the building, he expects they have, like, full surveillance of all of his activities, and he wants to make sure that nobody is following him to where he's going, because he's on a planet at this point. And this is full on, like, a big metropolis, high-rise buildings all over the place, alleys, maybe, like, ships kind of going on. It's very, like, Coruscant kind of vibes. Activity all over the place on all kinds of levels. Sprawling, large structures. Easy to get lost here, but all the more he's worried about being followed. He's going through all these various parts of the city, trying to make sure he could lose any tail that would be, or identify any tail that he might have beforehand. And when he's satisfied, we see that he eventually goes to, like, a field office for the Imperium, where he might be able to report in person suspicious activity. And I'm not going to like play out the whole scene or anything, because I only vaguely have this idea anyway. But, and maybe if this were like a TV show or something, like, we wouldn't even hear any of the dialogue. It would all just be done through, like, gesture and expression, and we would get the idea of it while we hear just, like, music over the background of it all. And so we see him, like, at the desk trying to make it clear that he needs to talk to somebody in charge. And we see him in a back room, like this private area. It almost looks like an interrogation room. Like that's where they have ready for him. He's sitting across the table from the guy. He's not under arrest or anything, but he's talking to this, like, officer in charge of this situation about all these findings that he has. And he's gesturing. We see his, like, holographic display showing this kind of, like, showing images of the, like, blueprints and stuff of technology from Laztech. We don't hear exactly, and the look on this officer's face basically communicates, like, hey, look, I wish there was something we could do about it, but, like, we get this impression like he's not going to help Emile. He can't do it. It's all, there's nothing illegal about what they're doing. And perhaps there's even a moment where Emile is, like, trying to show him something deeper that more demonstrates, like, no, you don't understand. There's also this other thing. And the guy, like, puts his hand on Emile's hand and, like, literally stops him from displaying it. And then another, like, stands up, puts another hand on his shoulder and, like, just escorts him out the room, shakes his hand, and is, like, off on his way. And finally, in this vignette, after Emile leaves and, he's disappointed, we follow this officer to another location. We see that later on in that evening, he's there in one of these alleys, and he is talking to someone that we recognize as Deuce, the artificial intelligence owned by Laztech that serves as their lawyer. And then we come back to Emile now. So I'm going to take my +1 momentum now that we have a little bit of a hint of kind of what went down during those times with Emile. A time that he put his trust in the Imperium and they failed him because they weren't so clean themselves. So now Emile is in this cockpit, right? And he's thinking about, like, what's it going to take? Like, all of those ships are in there, and, like, he is salivating at the idea of that this could solve all of his problems, but he's got to be safe about it. I think he recognizes that, he is vastly outnumbered there. There are going to be all kinds of personnel, and he's walking into a situation, if he were to even get inside, which, as we mentioned last time, he doesn't even have a good way to do that right now. He can't just phase through the outside because it's got its shields up, and we know that a ship's shields, they interfere with the phase shifter, so he doesn't have a way in yet anyway. But even if he were to get inside, he's walking into a complete unknown situation. And so I think step one in this process, as he starts talking himself into how there is a way, is that he knows, he knows a thing or two about ships and recognizes that when a ship of this size, when it docks somewhere, as this ship eventually does, when it does need its maintenance, it goes into like a real armature system. There are all these supports that connect to it and plug in to like read things from the ship's computer from the outside so that it can do the proper diagnostics and know, like, because you're not just going to eyeball what are all the problems with this ship when it needs service. You need to be able to like access its computer. So I think he knows there are ways from the outside to connect into the computer system of this thing. And of course, that's Emile's world. Now, it would not make sense to me and is way too kind for me to just say, oh yeah, of course, you can do that from right here where he is right now. He was looking for a good blind spot, and he found it. I think if he wants to risk finding this place where you could plug in from the outside so that he can access the computer, that's definitely going to involve having to move to another location. He may even need to find it first. So how about this? Why don't we start off with a good old secure an advantage? Because at the moment, he's not doing anything especially dangerous yet while he just sits here. We know that he's safe from, like, they're not going to notice him. So he's in his element right now. But he needs to find where he needs to get to. Like, where could he move his ship in order to be able to plug in from the outside? Which definitely seems like an expertise, focus, or observation role. I don't think he's doing it with just his eyes. I think he's also maybe using some, like, modest amounts of his ship's computer in order to analyze what's around him, do some quick scans of features, and like just get some different kinds of views that he wouldn't have right now. So we're going to start with that and see how that goes. So this is just secure an advantage with wits. I don't imagine we have anything in particular that's going to help with this while we're just looking for like trying to identify where a ship where you would plug into this ship. All right, we get to start off with a strong hit. Nice. So we get 2 momentum and a +1 on our next move. So we're all the way up to momentum 5 now. That's a good start. So he sees out there. He's able to tell. It's thankfully, this is a strong hit. It's on the underbelly of this thing with him. He wouldn't have to go, like he would have to fly to a new location, but it's not too bad. He could get there hopefully without having to draw too much attention to himself. However, he once again has a bit of an issue, which is most of the things he would want to do involve using his own personal, like, supercomputer. Like, he'd need to be able to plug in. And we know that his computer is currently broken. We tried to fix it last time, but were unsuccessful. Now, it may be worth trying to do again. We have an opportunity to try and repair once more. We are gearhead, which means we would get to add +1 from that. We have our +1 right now from securing an advantage. And it would be a wits move. Why don't we do this now while we've got our best opportunity to just repair our computer? We'd also take +1 momentum on a hit. So let's do it. The only thing I need to be able to justify to myself, though, is I need to be able to answer this question. How has the situation changed from when he tried to repair his computer last? He's in a new place, sure, and we're in a new session, but, like, narratively, what has changed? We said last time that the tools here weren't fine enough to do the kinds of operations he wanted to be able to do with them. Like, that was the real problem. So how has he gotten around that problem? Or how is he going to get around that problem in order to be able to try and repair it again with the same situation? And I don't know that the answer is that he can. I think I would have to make another move in order to make that happen. And it may still be worth it. Yeah, I suppose we could. We have a little bit more time now as we're like continuing to just fly on the underbelly of the ship. It's taking us around. It's not yet ready to jump. It's still like its engines are still recharging. So we're just kind of floating along through space. We've got a little bit of time if we were to maybe like really give the once over to the ship to find anything we could use to just like MacGyver into the kind of tools we want. Like if we wanted to use our scavenger asset here to just cobble together an ad hoc tool, device, or weapon. Yeah, let's do that. So we're really going over, like, we have some tools here, but they're not ideal, but we might be able to modify them to be able to do the precision work that we need through unconventional things and just like little bits and bobs of stuff around. Oh, you know what? Here's the difference. I can't believe I forgot this. Last time we tried to repair the computer, we were inside the single fighter. Now we've got a full ship worth of stuff to go through. We've got more supply now. That's actually a compelling enough reason to me that I am willing to accept that. I'm actually willing to accept the situation has changed enough that he can try and repair it here. Because he's got much more access to just like various little things left behind in what was once a derelict ship. So I've talked myself back into it. This situation is actually different. Let's just make the repair roll with the +1 from our secure advantage and an additional +1 from our gearhead. And hopefully we can get a full strong hit so we can actually repair this thing. Because as I recall, that's what it's going to take. We are in the field right now, so we need a strong hit to get the 3 repair points that we'll need in order to actually repair this device. So here we go. Repair. Wits with a +2. Oh, yeah. Like, not even close. We exceeded the maximum of 10, and the challenge dice were only a 3 and a 4. So we were actually able to repair it this time. And yeah, that's exactly how I'm going to use the points. We use all 3 of our points in order to repair his computer. Now that he's got better, more fine tools, he's able to do that. I get to get 1 momentum on this hit, so we're up to 6 momentum now. His computer is functional again. He knows where he needs to get to. Now it's time to... Well, unfortunately, we don't have that +1 from secure and advantage anymore. We do have a little bit of momentum, though. We need to stealth our way over to this new spot. Here's what I'm going to do to help us out, though. This is a different secure and advantage that I'm going to do. We still have 1 charge left on our firebrand asset, the reflavored firebrand that allows me to use my EMP. Emile could definitely have an easier time stealthing over if he gives a blast of EMP that just like, it just, you know, like their ship is definitely going to reboot through it. Like they will have systems, as we've seen the Imperium have before. They'll be able to recover from it, but it's going to give them a blip, a window where there's just like a weird power thing that he can move during that while they're distracted. They probably won't notice. So yeah, let's use 1 point from that. And this will allow us to get a +2 on this secure and advantage in order to just give ourselves cover. Actually, I suppose if I'm trying to take best advantage of this and like this still makes sense to me, I'm going to do this as part of just, this is not setting up the advantage. He doesn't like make that blast of EMP, wait to make sure it works, and then analyze the situation and move on. He is going to just do it all in one fell swoop, assume that it worked, and like be moving in the process. Like just use that window. So this is actually going to be just going straight to the face danger move. This is going to be a shadow move with the benefit of the +2 that we get from using that asset. We're now out of it, where our meter from Firebrand is now all the way down to 0. But we get a +2 on this, which is even better than secure and advantage, technically. We make this blast out and hope that it gives us enough cover to move over without being noticed. So we're making shadow with a +2 to get to this spot where we can plug in now that we have the computer working. And we get. All right, we have a weak hit. I can't turn it into a strong hit because our challenge die, the problem one is an 8, and our momentum is not quite that high. So we succeed, but not without a cost. Make a suffer move -1. And I think in this case, it's easy enough to just make that, like, we just lose a little bit of momentum. We get all the way over there, we're unseen, but it does cost us a little bit. We do have to wait in order to make sure, like, we don't want to do anything too risky to call more attention to there being something screwy going on. Also, like, maybe it takes them a little bit longer to reboot than we were expecting. So, like, we can't even move on to try any kind of computer shit until a little bit longer away. It just, it slows down the momentum a little bit. Now, here's the next question. How are we going to plug in? Like, the shields do come back online. Like, when this system reboots, he's probably inside the shields right now. He's like intermingling with it where his ship is. They're kind of all in one sort of shield bubble. But like, we know he doesn't have a spacesuit. So how is he going to connect this port? Like, how is he going to do that? This might be time to lean into his scavenger asset and consider, you know, this ship still is, up until recently, like, yeah, it's his ship now, but we were considering it an abandoned wreck, ruin, like, all the things that qualify for scavenging a wreck, ruin, or abandoned site from his scavenger asset. We might need to finally do a thorough inventory of this ship to see, like, are there any suits left behind? is there anything we can find here? Because he probably doesn't have enough time to cobble something together himself. Like, maybe with enough time, he could, like, Tony Stark in a cave with a box of scraps, make his, like, airtight, make a, like, Iron Man suit kind of thing. Or just something that would at least seal him against the vacuum of space. But I think he wants to make sure this is all done before the carrier, like, goes through subspace to the net, like, does their next jump. He doesn't know how long that's going to be, and he can't waste a lot of time that way. He's got to get this done. Because while he can fly on their underbelly right now, it would probably take additional work on his behalf. That's not going to take him along on a jump if they were to go there. Not without his effort, like, manipulating their system to be taken along with the jump. Like, that's just not going to happen automatically. So anyway, let's scavenge this ship. Let's go through to see, can we find that suit? So I am going to still consider it an abandoned site, because it basically is. Like, it's so freshly his new ship. This won't qualify forever, but for now, it counts. So I do get to add +1 from my scavenger asset and take 1 momentum on a hit. And if somehow we get a strong hit with a match, we will also find something of unique value, significance, or function. I hope that happens, but that'll only happen on a match. So we're doing the resupply move and the version where we are looking for a specific item. So when we are scavenging, which we are, we get to roll wits. We will have a +1 from this. And let's see if we can find the thing. Holy shit! I need to prove this. I feel like I need to prove this, but it actually is a strong hit with a match. It's only a double 1 match, but this move has specific rules for what happens on a match, so I'll get to do those. Yeah, strong hit with a match. So we are in need of a specific item or resource that can reasonably be obtained. You acquire it, take 1 momentum. And then we also get 1 momentum from our scavenger move. And then because this was a strong hit with a match, we get the next part of this. We find something of unique value, significance, or function, envision the nature of this discovery, take 2 momentum, which will bring us all the way up to 9, and mark 2 ticks on your Discoveries Legacies track, which will not full-on fill in a box for me, but it'll get me 1 tick away. Okay, we need to figure out what is this cool thing that we find. It is something, again, the specific wording on it is unique value, significance, or function. Now, we already found a really cool... The phase shifter is something that I would consider, like, it would have qualified for that. This is probably going to be on that order. But I would actually like this to be something that Emile finds that is relevant to VY572. Like, something relevant to him that pulls him back in that direction. Because maybe this ship also had a history with VY572, or they were studying it, or something. Maybe they have a smear. Yes. It's been way too long, and he's been looking for too long. They have a canister in there. He hears something kind of rattling around, like the tinkling of like glass vibrating when he's in this room. It's subtle. But it's in this room where he finds the spacesuit, and as he's already happy enough about that, he hears this motion, and he's very curious, like, what the hell? I should be alone in here. And first, he probably like turns with his blaster drawn, thinking somehow somebody has boarded his ship. He looks around, and he can't find anything, but he keeps hearing this really subtle noise. And he winds up opening up this, like, storage chest. And when he opens up the lid, he sees, yeah, it's just like before. It's kind of like what we saw on the Reacher. Smaller. This is a smaller smear than we've seen before, but it's inside this cylindrical glass container, this little canister with like bigger than like the canister that has the ooze for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like bigger than that, but still, like, let's say this thing is probably about like 2 feet long, and maybe like the cylinder is probably like a foot in diameter, something like that. You definitely need to it's pretty heavy. You need to pick it up with 2 hands. But inside, Emile opens up this crate, and we see the view from the inside as like a Quentin Tarantino shot as the lid moves away, and we see Emile's face. And just like the gold briefcase, we see his face lit up with all of these just like psychedelic colors. And his face not only lights up physically, but it certainly lights up emotionally as he realizes, holy shit, it's a smear. He'd been looking for so long. And sure enough, it is pointed, like it is moving in a direction. As the smears do, we know that they try and get back towards the main source. And Emile sees that this smear it's definitely not moving in the direction he's going. So he does have that moment of, what do I truly care about right now? Because he swore, if it takes me to the end of my days, I will find VY572 and destroy it. And he's moving in the opposite direction of it right now. Now, I think the way he comes down in this moment is realizing that VY572 is far away. Probably. Even if he were able to get to it, he was not ready to destroy it. He wouldn't even know how. Right now, he's still being vexed by just this Imperium ship, who might destroy him if he comes out of hiding at this very moment. So, he can't pursue it. But he is noteworthily happy to see that he's got one more piece of the puzzle. He has his compass now. When it comes time to find VY572, he has a compass. He also has a specimen to study in order to learn more about the full form. And we are going to mark our first bit of progress on that in a very long time. I don't even know how many episodes it's been, but we have a smear. And Emile, he doesn't know how this is all about to go down, but he wants to make sure that, nobody takes that from him. So he, and it doesn't escape or anything. Closes that crate back up. Makes sure to, he, marks it in his, on his computer. He marks down the serial number. Makes sure, he has all the information about where it exists, that he will find this thing again. But for now, he has this suit. And he knows, once again, the window is probably limited before this ship jumps. So he puts the suit on as momentum is rocketed all the way up to 9. And it's time for him to... I'm going to say that it's still, even though this is a strong hit with a match, the match is very much the VY572 smear. This is still a suit that, he can't, jet set around on it or anything. It's still going to connect. It's an old style one. Going to connect through an umbilical. He will be tethered to the ship still. But he puts it on, he gets that whole thing set up, and we're going to take him outside as he is going to try and just jack into the computer system of this carrier ship. Because from there, Emile is going to play. Now, I don't think this is inherently going to be a stealth move, because the ship isn't moving. Emile is just moving as an individual. Nobody is going to notice that. That's not going to come up on their sensors or anything. He'll be fine. This is all about mobility, because it's weird to move in this suit. This, it's not nearly what he's used to with, his mobility belt and everything. He's got to just, it's very low tech. It's early space travel kind of stuff. He's got to just properly move himself in the right direction towards the ship and, use momentum. Hopefully not game mechanic wise. Not do anything too quickly. It's a slow and methodical process that he is not that well trained in. So this is going to be a test of his mobility. This is an edge move, as he needs to just get into position up against the ship. Again, he's inside the shields. I think, shields will stop blaster, laser fire, things like that. They'll block against some kind of ordnance, but it doesn't 100% keep out just moving inside of it. It probably feels warm and weird to be inside the shield, but it's not inherently screwing him up. It would just screw up his phase shifter. So let's make this mobility roll. I don't think we're going to set it up in any way. We've got some nice high momentum. Edge move, flat. See how it goes. All right, so weak hit, and the top die was a 10. Nothing I can do about that with momentum. So again, we succeed, but not without a cost. Make a suffer move. And once again, the most sensible thing here is just we lose a little bit of momentum. It's weird, as we just noted. It's hard to move around. He's not well trained for it. There's probably a few false starts. It takes him some time, but he eventually gets there. And he's able to grab onto the side of the ship and steady himself, catch his breath, and yeah, it's time to hook up to his... Because the other thing is, the computer, he's not wearing it on the outside of the... He's not wearing it on the inside of the suit. He has to be holding it the whole time, and he doesn't want to accidentally lose his computer. He's got, big, thick, not that manipulable astronaut gloves. Oh, you know what he's probably doing? To rewrite that a little bit, I don't think he'd be taking the whole computer. I think he has taken with him the data cable, a long data cable that he'd be able to connect into the ship and then bring back inside his ship and then do the computer stuff from there. That makes more sense. He's going to try and connect the two ships together. Maybe he's already even done it on the outside of Raya's Promise. Raya's Promise is hooked up. He just needs to jack the other end into this carrier ship, and then from there he can use his computer from the inside to handle all of this stuff. And I think I think given that, I'm going to say that that's all within the scope of what we did on the last move. I'm not going to make him roll yet another edge move. I think the edge he just rolled was all of that. It's getting over there, it's plugging the thing in. So we were able to do it with a little bit of a momentum loss. We were able to get back to our ship. Like, we do that whole maneuver. That's what it encompasses. We're back inside. We've got maybe like the helmet off, but are still mostly donned just in case there are any problems that we need to deal with. We don't want to have to like entirely put the suit back on because it's a process. He maybe has the gloves off as well so that he can better manipulate it. But the ships are hooked up. It's all then, tied into his computer so he can start manipulating it in front of his face with his AR. This is all a factor of like, he needs to break their security. If he wants to do anything, and he wants to do so many things, he needs to hack his way in. But of course, this is well within his wheelhouse. And it's literally, when you make a move to configure, optimize, hack, or disrupt an electronic system, add +1 from our tech move. So that is exactly what we were trying to do. We're trying to break our way in to get access to things that we can start gathering information on the things we want. Like, we want the layout, we want all kinds of stuff I have in mind. Let's just make this move quickly. And as usual, if we get a weak hit on this is the one where we have the chance to press our luck and re-roll all the dice. But we'll get there if we get there. So this is a face danger wits with a +1. We get... It is a weak hit. And yeah, the top die was a 10. I can't do anything about it. I could press my luck. All the weak hit means is that we would do it, but we have a suffer move. But if I got a strong hit on it, I'd get to have momentum. I'd go back up to 9 as opposed to going down to 7. And, maybe I'm just a bit of a gambler at heart when it comes to player characters, so let's do it. We're going to re-roll this. This time we get a +2 on the move, and hopefully I didn't just screw myself by letting perfect be the enemy of good. No, I very much did not. Now it is just a strong hit. I once again was able to go over the top score we could have. We got a full-on 10 plus out of that. It caps at 10. Challenge dice for 3 and 6. So we are successful. We take 1 momentum. As noted, we're up to 9 now. And this means Emile completely adept at this sort of thing. Yeah, this is what he is trained to do. Not go between ships in an umbilical system. He's got all kinds of things already on his computer that are like, that's probably almost as easy as like just run, protocolcracker.exe. All sorts of things are already set up to just drill through this kind of system. I don't take that, like, even with Imperium level security, which is not nothing, Emile's done worse. He has gotten through all kinds of systems. He used to work for LazTech, and they probably they might have their own backdoors into the Imperium system that Emile was able to poach and use. So, like, he does it like it's nothing, takes him but a few moments, and then he gets to do the classic "I'm in" to himself. So now, what this was really all about was opening up the ability. I want to gather some information here, because what Emile wants to do is we need to know everything that there is to know about this ship before we do anything. Here's what I have in mind. Emile knows he's outnumbered in there, but now that he has access to their computer, he can learn, like, who is stationed where, when, like, what is the shift rotation? If he wants to, and he could maybe even manipulate it to give himself openings. Think of this like the Italian Job, if you're familiar with that. And I'm talking about the more modern Italian Job. I've seen them both, but I'm talking about the one from, like, the early 2000s, I want to say. Anyway, minor spoilers for that if you haven't seen it. Good movie. Check it out if you like heist movies. But one of the big problems in that movie is they're realizing that they need to make their getaway, and they're in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles traffic is terrible. But one of the big things that they do is they come up with a system in order to manipulate the traffic lights so that they can make the openings that they need. Traffic is not terrible if you can hit all greens along the way and make wrecks and, like, control where people go. That's the idea they have in mind. Emile is going to try and do something very similar. Yes, he is vastly outnumbered on this carrier ship. But if he is manipulating schedules so that people are stationed in the wrong places, he can make the holes he needs to get where he needs to go. They may not last long before people realize that there's a problem, but he can maybe give himself the openings. So anyway, he needs to gather information here to learn as much as he can about specifically shift rotations, layout of the ship, like where are the people going to be? Certainly where are the ships kept? Though that much is probably pretty obvious because of just the like he knows where the hangar is from the outside because the ships have to leave through they leave through the outside of the ship. He knows where that is. But how many personnel are there? When are they scheduled? Are there any natural openings? Are there times where there are a few people around? All that important kind of stuff. So let's do it. Let's make a wits roll. We don't have anything that's going to help us on this, but here we go. Okay, this one's a miss. I could turn it into a weak hit by burning momentum. The difference would be a weak hit is that what we'd learn will be complicating, but it's not the full-on dire threat or unwelcome truth that undermines my quest. And I think in this case, much as it sucks to throw away 9 momentum just to turn it into a weak hit, I think we need this one to work for the plan I have in mind. So I'm going to do it. So now, new insight, but a complication to our quest. Envision what you discover, then take +1 momentum. I want this to be more than just that he discovers there aren't any holes there. I want a true complication on the way I even think about this. Because we already have a plan in place for like how we're going to make holes. That's not a complication. We need an extra layer on that where not only is he going to have to make holes, but ... So what's making this more complicated? Maybe he learns... Why don't we have Emile learn the timer on like that their jump engines, they are about to actually make their next jump. I think he learns a few things. He's going to learn the fact that they actually are on their way. Like their mission is to rendezvous and get to Cinder. So if he follows them, like they're getting him to where he's trying to go. That's a good thing. And he learns about their schedule and certainly that there are not any natural holes that like ways that he could just get around there. He's going to have to create them, but that much is clear. But then importantly, he does learn that they are like about to get ready. Like, we're talking moments away. They are spinning up. There's not going to be time to do any of this beforehand. He's got at most like maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes before this thing is going to jump. It is beginning its process in order to make that happen. So he could do one of two things here. Well, one of a lot of things really, but 2 things come to mind, I should say. He could use his access to the system to try and like fuck up the jump engines, like make it so like they spin back down, they're erroring out, they won't go. Maybe it could be as simple as like if he screws up their navigation, it could be the type of thing where the computer automatically red flags it and says, no, we can't go there. And that would buy him more time. The problem with that is that it would certainly draw attention to the fact that, like, wait, that's not how we set this. Something's going on here. They may look into that more. That is one approach, though. He could buy himself some time by just sabotaging their ability to jump for a little bit. Wouldn't last forever, but it could easily buy him maybe a few hours. Option number 2 that comes to mind. Use the fact that he knows where they're going to jump and jump himself. Like, try and follow them along to that point as best as possible. Here's the problem with that one. He is trying to literally ride their underbelly right now. Coming out of subspace like this, like, it requires precision, absolutely, in order to set your route correctly, but part of the reason why you calculate everything so well is that I don't think there is that kind of precision. Like, you can't calculate where you're going to be, I don't even know how many astronomical units away from where you are after you come out of warp. You can't calculate that down to, like, the level of feet or inches. Like, there would just be no way to come out exactly where he is now. He'd be nearby. He could go to where they're going, but he'd have to get into position again. He wouldn't be right there on their belly. So either way comes with its own challenges, but either way is certainly a way forward. What do I want to do? Do I want to just buy more time and take the fact that we're already in position? Or do I want to do the one that draws less immediate attention, but also makes us have to do more stealth stuff again in order to make this happen? I think we'd have to disconnect our system. Like, we wouldn't be able to stay right there connected to the ship. Okay. I think I'm going to go for option A. We're going to try and disrupt their ability to jump for a little bit. I'm going to do it a little bit differently, though. I think the way Emile is going to stop the jump from happening is going to serve his purposes. I think he needs to shut down the shields, because the ship won't jump without shields. That'll also red flag it. He can screw up their shields, which will allow him to pass through, like he could phase shift through and be on the inside. And then while they're looking into that situation, he'd have time to monkey around inside and do what he's trying to do, because I've still got a plan here. Now, we said he has about like 10 minutes to pull this off. So that tells me there's not a lot of time to make a lot of rolls, but certainly enough time for him to do one big roll, which is an attempt to try and... This is kind of also disrupting an electronic system. This falls under our tech roll pretty comfortably. We are trying to, using access to the computer that we already have, shut down their shields. Make a problem in it that takes a little while. Like, he needs this to last as long as possible, right? Like, in fact, this may benefit from us taking the moment to, why don't we secure an advantage? We could make a program, because Emile needs this to be something they can't solve quickly. He needs to make a program that can keep periodically, like, making the shields malfunction in, like, different ways. So it's hard to trace down exactly what's going on. And, like, it masks itself. It's like he's giving them a virus that's going to infect their system and then kind of automatically keep fucking with the shields here and there. But it's going to keep, like, copying itself to new parts of the ship and deleting where it came from. So, like, it's going to be... The real specific purpose of this program is to not only shut down the system, but really cover its tracks well. Put them on a wild goose chase. They will eventually find it. I don't think there's any way that'll happen. It's about buying as much time as possible. So Emile's going to secure an advantage. He's going to try and make that program. So we get to add +2 and take +1 momentum on a hit. So Wits with a +2 as he tries to quickly cobble together this kind of program. As usual, this is probably part of the reason he's able to do this so quickly is it's twofold. One, it's a supercomputer, and this is a sci-fi future thing where he's able to do this like lightning fast, maybe even through some kind of minor implants that he has. The second thing that's really more relevant a lot of the time is I think a lot of this is just modifications to things that he has at the ready. You know, he's taking pretty general purpose ideas that he has, programs that he already has on his computer, and he's tailoring them for the situation through a helpful kind of pseudo-intelligence on his computer that helps him, like, take just plain language operations and execute on them. You know, this is analogous to this is like Tony Stark and Jarvis kind of level of thing, like early Jarvis. He's not doing like line-by-line coding on this. Anyway. Wits with a +2. Let's try and make this program. All right, we do get a weak hit, which means we can either take the momentum or the 1 on our next move. We do get the 1 momentum just from the fact that we got a hit, and that's part of this asset. So do I want to go up to 6 momentum, or do I want just a 1 on the next move? God, both are kind of tantalizing. We're in that momentum range where it could be very helpful. But of course, so might a +1. Though in fairness, the program is kind of going to be its own, like it can reroll any dice. Let's take the momentum here. We're going to go up to 6 momentum. We make this program. Now we need to infect their computer and get it to just operate. So this is going to be the face danger. I do think this is going to be a shadow move though. It's not about Emile literally being like physically stealthy. But he does need to be sneaky about when exactly, like how he deploys this. Because if they find it immediately, they'll trace it back to him, alarms go off, they'll look for his ship, all of that. He has the wits to pull this off. That's not what's in question. And it always comes back to what is the dramatic question here. The question is, can he pull this off unseen? This needs to work in the background. So we're going to make this a shadow move. Face danger, but because it's with this program, we get to reroll any dice if we want to. So here we go. Face danger, shadow. Okay, I rolled a 10 and an 8 on my action die. On my challenge dice. Those are definitely getting rerolled. I rolled a 2 on the action die. I feel like I should just reroll the entire thing, because all of them are very likely to get better. The 10 can only get better or stay the same. The 8 will likely get better, and the 2 will likely get better. So let's just reroll the whole thing. So once again, face danger, shadow, but without any benefits other than our momentum. Okay, it definitely got better. We turned that into a weak hit. The problematic die is a 9, though, so I can't cancel it out with momentum. So this is the one we've seen so many times this session. We succeed, but not without a cost. We got to make a suffer move of -1. I think that let's just cancel out that momentum that we got. You know, it's all purpose for a reason. We're going back down to momentum 5. As we had to use some of our plot armor here on just making that work. But he deploys it and he's waiting to just, it maybe takes a little longer for it to crack the shields than he was hoping for. And so he's like monitoring on his computer as he's watching the readout about what jump engines are doing. And he's seeing them continuing to just spin up, like they're getting ready. He's like, fuck, when is this going to happen? The shields are clearly still up. And he's still on faith, like he's trying to get ready, just hoping the shields go down. He's getting to the part of the ship where he needs to go to. Got his computer on, he's got his phase shifter on. He's like ready to make this journey if it comes. And he's watching on his AR like, come on. And then the shields go down. But he's still seeing like, wait, hold on, the jump engines are still going. What's happening? What's happening? He's sweating because he's trying to figure out like, should I go through? The window is now, but if they jump away, the ship will still be here. Then I'll be stuck there. That's probably even worse. Like, can I do this? And while he's trying to figure out what the right call is, then finally he gets the indication that like the error on the jump engines, they recognize the problem. They shut down. The jump is aborted. But it cost him that momentum. He's like, okay, good. Whew, breathe a sigh of relief. But now he's acting on the clock. So, and I'm going to make this a literal clock. Because as we mentioned, this is only going to buy him time. So I want to make this a scene challenge. And when the clock runs out on this, it represents that they have fully figured out what's going on. They have gotten rid of the virus. They have gotten the shields back online. And then are like imminently going to jump away. I think I will officially say the end of the clock is just that the shields are back online, because that alone is a problem for Emile. If he is still on when the shields get back online, of course, like he needs another way off. He can't just phase shift through. That would be a problem. So, scene challenge. We need to name our objective and choose a rank. So the objective here, I am going to say that what Emile wants to do, he is going to try and infiltrate the ship. And if you remember, when we were doing the blockade run, part of the way that we pulled off that maneuver was that Emile set up a system to be able to remote pilot a ship through radio frequencies. He could just access and send simple commands to the ship that could then remote control it. It was rudimentary. It could only fly it so well, and there was delay and everything, but he could issue commands and fly it remotely. He would like to put a similar kind of system onto as many of the ships inside the hangar as he can, and then get out. So the objective here is going to be, let's call it, install remote control onto fighters. So, the rank. You have clear advantage is troublesome. You are ready to act is dangerous. You are unprepared or outmatched. Formidable. I think this is relatively balanced. The situation at large is huge, and he's outmatched, all the things we talked about. However, Emile has stacked the deck in his favor a little bit. He's made a lot of good preparations. He's got things like the phase shifter on his side. He's got potentially, he knows the schedules of people. He knows where the ships are. And he's already done this sort of, like, he's made this program before. I don't think he even needs to make the program exactly. Like, he still has a copy of that. He probably saves copies of every program he's ever made. So he's pretty ready for this. I would say we are ready to act. So we're going to set this as dangerous. Now we need a 4-segment tension clock. And it's time to face danger or secure an advantage to take action. So first things first, I want to secure an advantage here. Emile is trying to make those holes that we were talking about. He needs to, like, yeah, there's a big distraction right now as some people on the ship are trying, like security personnel are trying to hunt down what's going on with the shields. There are probably people that are going into like the shield generator room. They're looking into that. They're going places that aren't the hangar, which is a boon. He's made a bit of a distraction for them, but he also wants to like use access to the system right now to issue commands to people to send them send patrols to the wrong parts of the ship. Get squadrons to just like make holes. He's got a layout of the ship. He is going to clear a path over between where he is to where he wants to be. And so that's a securing advantage. And this is going to be with wits. This is definitely expertise, focus, or observation. As he needs to know where to send people and all of that. And of course, he has to use the computer system in order to do it. You can make an argument, though, that this could maybe be, this is about heart instead, because it is about, he does have to issue commands. They may not be through his voice, but he does still need them to be, these need to be orders that are followed. I think I'm going to come down on the side, though. I'm going to be nice. I think it is still much more about just using the computer system the way it's supposed to be, like getting commands through the right channels to get people where they're supposed to go, and also being observant enough about, like, how is this movement done on the ship? I think that really is the question, is how aware is he of, like, how can he make this look right? That's kind of more the question than can he phrase this in a way that they'll obey? Because if he makes it look right, it looks like there's a structure of taking orders here. That's not a problem. So I'm actually going to let myself do this with wits. It's been a wits-heavy session. As you can tell by the fact that it's gone well for me. Though, really, okay, when I think about it, I think that's probably being too generous. This is really a shadow move, right? Like, the real question is, can he be this deceitful? Can he get a false order through there without anybody realizing that anything is weird about that? That's about deception. So we're going to roll this as shadow instead, and, well, hope it goes well. Okay, we get a weak hit. Had a 1 and a 7 on the challenge dice, so once again, momentum can't help me here. But importantly, we don't fill in the clock. We still have a weak hit. So this is the classic. Do I want momentum? Do I want 1 on my next move? Because the next move is probably going to be a shadow move. And I think our momentum is high enough. It's the same argument as before. I'm going to take the momentum. We're going to take 2. We're up to 7 now. It's more and more likely to be able to save us from real problem dice. And will probably help us more than the difference between rolling a +1 or a +2. So it's a little out of the ordinary, the types of things he's sending. There's a little bit of suspicion to it, but there's a lot of chaos right now. So people aren't in the best position to be able to question it. It's a weird situation. He's able to put it through with a kind of urgency that implies, just do it. This is important shit's going on. Everybody wants to be able to jump out of here. We're on the clock. So he makes this kind of hole. And now we need to face danger as Emile needs to be able to get inside the ship. He needs to activate his phase shifter and get through to where he wants to go. This is going to be an edge move. This is all about mobility. I am not going to allow him to, in one move, just get all the way over to the hangar. This is just going to be a simple... He's just going to pass through the wall. Oh. I think this isn't going to be a roll, but he is going to log his coordinates right now before he leaves to just know, like, this is where I need to get back to. This is where my ship is. I could argue that I could make that a secure and advantage move as a preparation for getting back, but I don't think it's enough in question that he could pull that off, so I'm not going to bother. We're just going to move on to the face danger. He knows where he needs to get back to. This is an edge move as he passes straight through the wall into a place that should be empty if he's done everything right. Edge, we have no bonus on this. As Emile activates the phase shifter, comes on through, and gets another miss that I could turn into a weak hit by burning momentum. Let's think about this. Right now, we fail or a momentary success is undermined by a dramatic turn of events. Fill a clock segment and pay the price. Or if we were to get a weak hit on it, we would be successful and mark progress, but also encounter a setback. We'd fill a clock segment. We'd be burning a fair amount of momentum, and we're going to need it with shadow stuff. But honestly, I don't want to be already failing. I think it's still worth it. We're going to do a 1-and-1 here. So Emile passes through the wall. He shifts through. We go down to 2 momentum. We fill in 1 clock segment, but we do get our first 2 boxes of progress on... We're now inside. We have everything we need. We shut off the phase shifter. But there's a complication, which is that while this area is supposed to be empty, maybe he went he jumped the gun a little bit. He's a little bit early because he wanted to do this as quickly as possible. But he didn't really wait for time for the orders to be followed. And so he comes into a room, and this is like a supply area or something. Like there's thankfully a lot of things to hide behind. He comes through in an area where there's like shelves of crates and all kinds of equipment, things like that. Good things to scavenge potentially if he has the time. There might be good weapons and stuff in here. Who knows? But what there also is in here is there is still one more Imperium soldier who is on his way out, and he hears as Emile, he deactivates the phase shifter, he comes through and he like rattles against something, and the dude's head turns. He knows, like, wait a minute. It's kind of like Emile before when he heard the smear. There's somebody in here. And as far as he knows, there shouldn't be. He's not full on high alert yet. It's not the weirdest thing in the world, but he clearly is, he's got the question mark above his head right now. What's that sound? And he's going to investigate. Emile has but a moment to maybe try and either get out of here or hide. And I think that kind of like the jump engines on a ship, I like the idea that the phase shifter, it needs some time to come back on. Like, he can't just be turning it on and off and on and off all the time. He can't just shift away immediately. It's too easy of an answer. I need to put some limitations on this device. He can't just activate that again. Right now, he just actually needs to be stealthy and hide from this guy. Or maybe if he set up an ambush, like, is this guy, because he's alone. If Emile ambushed him and like knocked him out, maybe we could do a full on like Star Wars, like maybe we could do a full on like Death Star infiltration thing. Who's to say the Imperium, now that we're finally seeing them in person, maybe they have their own stormtrooper like uniform that it doesn't look exactly the same. It's not a violation of intellectual property, but face covering helmet, stuff like that, something where Emile could blend in. I'm going to say yes to that because it encourages Emile to do something very risky, especially without a lot of momentum. I would like Emile to try and ambush this guy so that he can knock him out, steal his uniform. So because we are in a scene challenge, ordinarily I might make that the battle move where we just fight a battle in a blur and it's just all one roll. Because we're in a scene challenge, we do this as just face danger and secure an advantage through the scene challenge rules. So this is going to be a face danger with shadow, because this is definitely about deception, stealth, or trickery. I don't love that, especially with no momentum to fall back on. But I don't think it's reasonable, if I'm respecting the results of the last move, for Emile to have time to try and secure an advantage with anything. I'd love him to, but it's not reasonable. And there's no version of this that I think isn't a shadow move. Like, he's got to stay hidden as far as what he wants right now. Like, he could try and run away, but that would draw a lot of attention. So I think let's go for it. And let's say this is representative of the full ambush. He's going to try and just, like, take this guy out from the shadows. Resolving it all as one move rather than, like, getting into a combat. Shadow. No bonuses. No anything we can work with here. Let's see if the dice just happen to like me. No, they don't. The challenge dice came in an 8 and a 7, so hard to overcome even if that were a stat that I did have, and Shadow I don't. So if you can't tell, that was a miss. So you fail, or a momentary success is undermined by a dramatic turn of events. We definitely fill a clock segment and pay the price. Here's what I'm going to say to keep this moving in a direction that I like. We're going to go with a momentary success is undermined by a dramatic turn of events. I think Emile is successful. Like, he knocks this guy out. And as he is celebrating and like putting on the Imperium uniform and getting ready, he now hears through the helmet the radio chatter, which is also really nice. But what he hears, and the reason why we fill the clock segment, is there is a recognition of, as they're looking around for what's going on, like, hold on, wait a minute. This is something that seems to have come from the outside. There's a connection to our outer terminal. Hold on, looking into it, and they determine that Emile's ship, like, he left the cable connected. They realize that there is a ship on their underbelly, and they need to take care of it. The order comes through to resend people to the hangar, scramble some fighters in order to blow that ship up. Now, is Emile going to be able to stop them from blowing up his ship? Is he going to be stuck here on this carrier? Are they going to find out that he is the intruder now that he is all suited up like one of them? Well, these are questions for next time. I'm going to go straight into the prompts this week. Like, cut out all the other bullshit. here we go. As opposed to some of the ones we've done recently, this one is actually not going to have really anything to do with what happened in the game this week or answer a question related to the game. I don't know, maybe I'll get use later, but I just had an idea. We're going to use the prompts, action and theme. I want you to tell me about a job. Like a weird sci-fi job. I guess you could put it in whatever setting you want, but here's what I rolled. Deflect and secret. I want you to make up a job, ideally one that doesn't actually exist in the real world, but like a very niche, specific job based on deflect and secret. Tell me your ideas, send them to me at starforgedpod@gmail.com. I want to make sure I emphasize enough that it's Starforged, StarForgedPod @gmail.com. I feel like I sometimes say that too quickly and don't enunciate enough. Starforgedpod@gmail.com. Send me your ideas. I would love to hear them. But I would also love for you to play me out music.